I've been here for 5 years and I've owned 5 businesses in 5 years. And I started giving back to the community. So I started asking myself, what should I do? I started browsing ideas. Then I'm like, podcast. I'll start a podcast. I won't be able to teach the audience because I'm not expert, not qualified to help anyone. But what I can do is ask bold questions to qualified people. And I'm going to ask, how did you make your first million? Because this is credibility. The purpose of this podcast was from the beginning is giving value and giving back. Because I felt like I owe this community. So here's the thing. We all met this week. We were at this event, RiskCon 360 in Las Vegas. Most of us were not from this town, but we met, we connected, and we decided to start this podcast and film this episode to make an impact on you. So make sure to watch and learn from these legends. Now, how about each one of us introduce themselves and what you do and what were you doing at the event? We'll start from the youngest.
All right. Now. My name is Chip Hopper. I am a book writer. My company is Book Jedi. I write books for celebrities and athletes and help people tell their stories. Our lives are defined by the stories we tell. So the better the story, the better the life.
What's the story about this leather vest?
Well, I knew I was coming to hang out with guys that were wearing fantastic outfits, not C-Rock. But I was in Old Scottsdale and saw it, and it just called my name, and so I had to get it I actually just got it a couple weeks ago. So
Nice.
Cool.
Love it.
Your calling. I love
Very
it.
nice.
Hi, I'm Tani Nguyen. I'm an entrepreneur out here. I host Pursue Vegas podcast. We highlight community leaders and other entrepreneurs. And my company, we are an M&A firm for home services and construction, Evergreen Home Services. And I was just there making friends, man, and making these guys like.
Well, we knew each other before. So.
Yeah, we knew each other before, unfortunately, but.
Yeah.
And she's an awesome driver.
Hey, but did you die?
we are here.
I didn't die.
Did you die? You're here.
I'm here. I didn't die. I lost one of my balls though. I only have 2 now. I only have 2. Only 2 left. All right, over here, there's a 2 million followers sitting beside me. 2 million followers.
Right.
I saw he tagged me on a story. I'm like, did he actually do it? Is he high?
No, man.
Real followers.
Yeah, I'm like C-Rock.
Real
Apparently, I'm underdressed, according to Chip. I don't have a leather vest I'm wearing today. Left mine at home. No, but I'm the founder of That One Agency and That One Brand. I have a podcast called What Are You Made Of? And I do a podcast tour called That One Podcast Tour. It's going around to a city near you and rocking it out, helping people become that one by helping them get on podcasts as well, the top podcasts out there. And yeah, man, that's it.
Love it. Thank you.
Cool. I love that. Hi, everyone. Netta Nasruddin. I am a 2-time TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and more importantly, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a company called Rise Up For You, and we get to work with leaders and organizations around the world to enhance leadership and company culture through soft skills. So that's all the human skills, emotional intelligence, how to communicate, your self-confidence. That's our superpower.
Nice. So my name is Cam Knight. I'm a coach, international speaker, and author of a dozen books in the area of mental performance, such as speed reading, memory, concentration, as well as personal mastery, such as self-talk, visualization, and goal setting. I have traveled to over 100 countries around the world to develop my content. And now I am pivoting to AI because when ChatGPT came out, I had an existential crisis because what took me 15 years to develop as a skill, ChatGPT was doing like that. So now I help small businesses and solopreneurs use AI to save time and increase sales. I personally believe the future is going to solopreneurship. With all these AI tools doing work for you, you're not going to need employees or VAs or any of that stuff. You can really run a business on yourself. So, yeah.
That's right.
Love that.
Unpack
Thank
that a
you.
little bit. Oh my God.
Well, I'm JC Nasser, and if you can speak some French, Jean-Claude Nasser. She's Nasruddin, I'm Nasser. We just met, I promise. I'm the host of this podcast. It's called The Millionaires Podcast. Why? Because I want to make an impact on you, the one who didn't make their first million yet, and you actually never dreamt of it. I'm here through these amazing legends telling you that you could do it, and it's not that hard. And that's why I have this podcast, so I can ask them good questions. And these answers will actually lead you to success. So let's get started.
Yeah.
Big question I always get asked. What motivates you? What keeps you going like an animal? Because you just met me, but if you follow me on Instagram, every fucking morning I post a song that I'm dancing, I'm going like crazy, I'm going to work, yelling at people. Energy is super high all the time. I got my secrets, organic secrets. What's your secrets? What keeps you motivated? What got you here?
Are we starting with me?
Yes, the youngest man.
Why the hell did I say one?
Talking about fire, I'm getting hot in here.
I was really thinking that too. Like we're gonna.
Some push-ups.
Keep the pants on.
For me, it's never too hot. So
For
He's
me,
got wearing a legit jacket.
Yeah, I think we can
I
just
love the
bounce
heat.
around, you know?
Yeah.
I take off my clothes when it's like 30 degrees. So
Wow.
I hike in the mountains without my shirt on. But yes, I'm sweating a little bit here already,
It
even
is
without the
very
question.
sauna.
Answer the question, Chip.
Okay, question. For me, like, people go through life, and Thoreau once said this, that most men lead lives of quiet desperation and die with their song still inside. And what motivates me is to help people sing their song while they're still alive. And that's why I'm in storytelling. That's why I help people find their value and raise up. Again, going back to the stories that you tell yourself are the stories that create your life.
Love that. Love that. Very
Damn, I don't
nice.
want to go after him. You want to switch seats?
I can go. Why don't we just go?
Let's go.
So what motivates me is that for as far back as I can remember, I've been a fairly driven individual. And it's hard not to be living in a culture and society with so much personal development content and everyone telling you to do more, be more, and reach for the stars. And as a result, I've always wanted to do more. And although I've had my fair share of success, I always felt like I missed the mark, fell short, or the success was much more difficult and stressful than it needed to be. And I always wondered why that was. Why is it if I want to do something, I know what to do, I know how to do it, I have the motivation and desire to do it, but for one reason or another, I can't or don't do it. And I realized that there was a gap missing in terms of a lot of the content that was out there. There's a lot of motivational, inspirational stuff, but once the motivation, inspiration fades, we're kind of stuck. And that's how I felt. And I really felt for the people who were like that too, like people who wanted to do more, but they just would get stuck. So really, I focused all my content around those people because I knew how tough it was to have wants and desires, but not be able to achieve that. Now, I've always felt like the worst pain in life is having a want that you can't achieve. And so that really motivated and drove me to produce the content that I did.
Have you achieved everything you wanted to achieve?
After 100 countries, I can say I have achieved more than that. And the more you achieve, you can't imagine that there's so much more to go after. I could have kept going after the 100th country, but I actually had to force myself to stop because I knew I would just keep going. And if I just kept going, I wouldn't have been able to actually produce my books and content and get out there. So sometimes it really helps to get to a certain level and then force yourself to stop because you can just keep going forever to do the next things that you want to do.
Love that.
Yeah.
How about you, Nada?
Honestly, that's a hard question for me because I think over my time, motivation has changed. But similar to you, I was born with this internal drive primarily because of my parents. My dad came from a Middle Eastern country, third world country. So for him, not doing something didn't exist in his mind. He came here with $20 in his pocket and built a life, put himself through school, had 3 jobs. So ever since we were little, he ingrained my brothers and I with this, why not? Like, why can't you do it? So we always had this internal drive just because, which I'm sure you can connect and resonate with. And I also think a lack of empathy is also what motivated me because I was that person that would look at people and be like, I don't understand why you can't do it. Like, what's the problem? Right?
Yeah.
And so, like, for a long time, I had to learn that people process and they work differently. And then that became a motivation for me because I think the greatest tragedy is wasted human potential. And I would see all these people that I could see, oh, there's so much potential in there, but they didn't even have the awareness of it. They would play to a lower standard. And I always say, like, it takes just as much energy to play small as it does to play big. So use that same energy and catapult. So that is like a big motivator for me. Now, a big motivator that just keeps driving me is, when I was 31, both of my parents passed away. And my brothers and I, Waleed and Jamel, that's their names, ever since they passed away, because they both passed away before they were 65. And they always had that mentality like, we're going to retire when? And then we'll travel when? And neither of them got to that place.
Yeah.
And so for my brothers and I, there's just like this burning thing every day that's like, my parents left the best of them with us. And so every day we're like, we're just going to keep driving and build the life that my father and mother so desperately wanted to build. they didn't know how to get there.
I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I love that immigrant experience that we share because we talk a lot about the human experience and like emotional intelligence and what we lack as a society. So when you talk about motivation, like it changes too, right? Like with pain and all that stuff. And I think my greatest pain came from, I think most of my life, I lived like a life of comfort. So it led to a lot of stagnation. I didn't realize it. Like I had all the money and everything looked really good on the outside, most of my 20s. I wasted a lot of years in the wrong relationships and, drugs and alcohol and partying, chasing, all of the things that are so vain in life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I think I shared this with you on my on your podcast.
I don't remember. No, I'm just kidding.
I shared that with him on the podcast. Is I wasn't openly talking about like going through my sobriety journey and like hitting rock bottom because no one wants to talk about that dark place. But I thought like when people started reaching out to me and like, hey, how did you get sober? Because if you knew me in my 20s or my teens, like I was party girl, like all the drugs, like, like the life that you think you want doesn't always feel good internally. So what motivates me now is like, just waking up like really excited about my life and getting to like wake up and talk to fun people and like do work that I'm really inspired by and like surround myself with people that challenges me and doesn't let me like stay in my own comfort zone of just money and the things that we used to think we want, So I think my greatest pain came from hitting rock bottom, almost ending my life at 32. And then I came out of that. It took me a couple of years, right? And I got sober and I'm like, oh, like I'm still here, So I think most people live passively suicidal because they don't think they're like, I'm not going to actively commit suicide, but they live a life that's just already like they're pretty much dead.
Yeah.
So those are the people that I've been able to help, with my story. So I think that's what motivates me. It's like there is a way out and like you will make it through.
Yeah, that's fun.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Wow.
I gotta follow that.
Yeah.
You get to
So for me, look, before I was conceived, I won a race, these little like trillions of tadpole looking things. So I won that race, and I really know, but really seriously, like you think about it, I won that race. We all won that race, and I just don't want to waste that win, right? So like, there's two types of fuel I've used in my life. The first one is a dirty fuel, but until you refine your engine through personal development and experience, you got to use this dirty fuel. My dirty fuel was my dad when I was 11 years old. Threw a $100 bill at me. He crumpled it up and he threw it at me. He said, "Here, you're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother one day." My parents were split up, and I was leaving my dad's house, and that got me. Like I just never wanted that $100 bill to be needed. So for 30 some years, I lived off of that. Like I wasn't going to ever need that $100 bill. I'll show him. And then as I started to refine myself and work on myself and become a better being, I needed a better fuel. Right, and I think think of cars like get a Ford Escort has a certain type of fuel, but a Ferrari needs higher octane. Well, that higher octane fuel comes from understanding that I'm created by an all-powerful God. Yeah, and I can't just let Him down. And so for me, I just want to see how far I can take this thing. So I use a different higher octane fuel now, and that is just making sure there's no wasted potential. And one last thing I'll add: a lot of people talk a lot on social media, podcasts. And they talk about what you should do, what you shouldn't do. You should be this and all that. And at the end of the day, more people need to be living demonstrations of what needs to be done versus just talking about it all the time. So I want to be a living demonstration for people. So
I love that. That's very strong. And now I have to speak. Fuck me. After all this, I have to speak. So my answer, what motivates me? It's gonna be funny. What motivates me is my short-term dreams. First thing that motivated me is I wanted to buy a bicycle. And my dad wouldn't buy it for me because he knew I'm gonna fall. He was so protective. The second thing was a phone. He knew I'm gonna call chicks. So he wouldn't buy it for me. He's like, you go make the money and buy it for yourself. I'm gonna allow you to buy it. The third thing was I wanted to prove everyone wrong. No one believed in me. And now what motivates me is I have a very small dream. I dream of every day. I wanna make an impact at least on one person a day. With a conversation, with an advice, with a post, with a story, or with yelling at someone, I don't care. I have to make an impact at least on one person a day. That's what motivates me. Every morning I wake up when I'm not feeling like getting out of fucking bed, like we all do sometimes. I'm like, I could change someone's life today just by a word, by a question, how are you today, by a smile. So that's what motivates me.
Love it.
Yeah. I have to say, we just met yesterday, but I feel that. Because when we connected, I felt like there was something different about you or there was something more to it. And I feel that, like that really resonates.
Even your suits are motivating.
Yeah.
That's what you want with the art. I'm like, oh, that guy.
You can slap 8 people.
People at once.
So here's why I wear these colors at networking events. I'm actually writing a book right
Yeah,
now.
I
I publish it
believe it,
very soon. How to network.
Yeah.
Right? I wear very loud colors because that's an icebreaker.
100%.
So how many times you wanted to speak to someone, you waited for an excuse to start the conversation?
Yeah.
Well, this blue color is gonna make
You're
you start
the
the conversation.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Ah.
it makes it easier for people to talk to you.
Yeah.
Now, who has a question for everyone?
I don't think it's a more of a question, but I just wanted to like tether that out a little bit with you talking about how AI is going to replace,
Yeah.
right, like humanity as its own. And we are huge on EQ and
Yeah, the people
the
aspect.
humanity
Yeah.
behind businesses, and that's what drives profit is because people think that AI is going to replace them.
Yeah.
I would like to say, like, I'll counter you right now. Like, I don't think they are. It's
Okay.
going to make people more productive, but to create more solopreneurs, it means that you're going to create more diversion and people are going to get divided and people are not going to know how to work together and build communities. And that's why we're so isolated and lonely as a culture.
Right.
And I think that's what's dividing just mostly America in the last, 10
Yeah.
years of business and everyone thinking it's so individualistic that everyone has to do it on their own. But why do we come to these things? It's because we want to meet people. We want to,
Connection.
That's right.
shoot the shit, like
Yeah.
literally just open up, be authentic, because you don't want to keep wearing masks for the
Yeah.
rest of your life. And I think that's why people are essentially so desperate for human connection, and they sit behind their house making content, trying to reach 1 million people. I'm like, go outside, talk to one person, like make a real like connection with someone. That's how we're all sitting here on this podcast. So that's what I want to
Okay.
like tease that out because I think that's
So I-
AI is still going to replace us.
Let
We're
me
just going to go to dog parks like dogs do.
Well, I
Well,
was
speaking of dogs, I want to share 3 quick stories from my travels, which is going to really
yeah.
put this.
and I want to counter too. Like I want to jump in there.
So the first story is halfway through my journey, I was in Sofia, Bulgaria. And I had met a few women from the walking tour that we were having lunch with, and I was telling them about my story of like traveling. And one of the women asked me, "Don't you get lonely?" And at that time, I didn't. Traveling was fun. I was meeting a lot of people. And actually, a year before, I had met another woman who described.
You only talk to women? Don't talk to women?
There's gonna be more.
That's very sexist.
It said described perfectly what I was experiencing, which is I travel alone, but I'm never alone. But I kept traveling, and I traveled to like really far extreme places. I slept in the oldest rainforest in the world, Kilimanjaro. I hiked the tallest mountain range in Africa, the second largest ice sheet in Greenland. And I traveled so far, and I started to get lonely, but I had this ego, no, I'm gonna beat it. And as much as I've learned about, the human condition and the techniques I've developed, none of that really worked to really escape the loneliness. And at a certain point, I broke. And I broke in a way that I can't really describe. And it took a while to kind of put myself together. So that's my first story. Second story, I met Lucy when I was in Ethiopia. For those who don't know, Lucy is the oldest humanoid fossil that we discovered and was discovered in Ethiopia. And I had the advantage to meet her because she travels to museums all around the world. But when I was there, she happened to be there. And honestly, it was pretty anticlimactic. It was like pieces of bone that didn't even look like pieces of fossils that didn't even look like bones. Well, what's cool is there was this exhibit of how we came from Lucy to us. And what's really interesting is there was a point in human civilization where there were multiple intelligent species roaming the earth. There was a Homo sapiens, Homo neanderthal, there was like a hobbit species in Indonesia. And it's kind of fascinating to think that we weren't alone, but they all got wiped out. And there's different reasons for why. And one of them is that we humans wiped them out. And not only that, but I know I'm going a little deep, but this is gonna make sense.
I'm gonna cry in a minute.
But the largest extinction of large animals since the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs was when humans came. And there's been only 5 major mass extinctions in the entire world in the last 3.5 billion years. And we humans are part of the 6th. So second story. Third story, a year before that, I'm in Colombia. So most in Medellin.
I was speaking to a woman.
Most people don't know that.
Two women this time.
Yeah, you're in Colombia.
Yeah, I mean, it's Colombia.
One in the front, one in the back. Sorry, man. Keep
Colombia's in a
going.
valley, right? So I went to do a ceremony with a shaman. So I got on a bus and took this bus like all the way out into Santa Elena, really out in the middle of nowhere. I get off the bus, and as I'm taking an off-road road, I see this like mean-looking dog following me. So I walk down about 200 yards, and then I take a left into a farm, and the dog's still behind me. I go down the farm and take a left into the tent where the ceremony is going to be held. The dog's still behind me. I go into the tent, set up my place where I was going to lie down and do the ceremony. Dog walks into the tent, sits right by me, and just hangs out. And this is an experience I've had all over the world where I've seen like dogs just latch on to a human being and wanted nothing from them, no food, no water, but they just wanted a master to be loyal to. So I'm going to combine the three stories. We humans are built to need connection, physical contact, and all of this stuff. But we humans are also the most dangerous animals that have ever walked the face of this world. And so sometimes it's very threatening for us to fill those needs, right? So enter the dog. Dogs are an artificial evolution. They didn't evolve from sort of survival of the fittest or natural selection. We evolved them for the characteristics that we needed, like the need to fulfill those needs of physical contact and closeness and all of that. In fact, we evolved dogs to protect us from humans. But dogs have limitations. They poop. We need to walk them. They can't talk to us, whatever. But AI is going to fill those needs, I think, that we need from humans, which it's too dangerous sometimes for us. And I really do think a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, how we still need that interaction, we're gonna start filling it with AI. And just to talk about your point, like we're more isolated than ever. Why? Because of technology. And it's gonna get even more once AI can fulfill these needs that we humans, that nothing else can but humans.
So AI is the new animal.
So there you go.
No, AI is the new master. We are going to be dogs.
AI
They're
dogs are
going
going
us to be dogs for the things they can't do.
That's
So
amazing stories.
So I'll like land in the middle of both Tanya and you. I think that what you're talking about is a possibility. There's always possibilities, but probably not for another like couple hundred years. I think it's going to take a while for it to get to that state, because I think it's going to take a really low level of consciousness from human beings to allow it to get there. But what I do think is true is that artificial intelligence will replace humans that are not elevating their emotional and social intelligence. Meaning that if you can use AI to catapult and to grow and learn, it's going to benefit you. But there's some people that have a hard time adapting. There's some people that get stuck in their ways. And that's where artificial intelligence is going to replace them, because they're not moving faster than what's happening with artificial intelligence. And we already see it. There's a lot of jobs that are replacing people, and those people don't know how to pivot. And that's where a lot of the challenges are happening, is they don't understand that emotional and social connection. Artificial intelligence can replace any one of us here, but it's not going to, because we all have high emotional and social intelligence. Like you can tell just by having conversations. Yeah. And I think that is something that is still very far away. And the other thing I want to touch upon is, I know you mentioned like the solopreneur. I can tell you right now, and I'm sure some of you would agree, I don't know if it'll ever get there where we're in a world where it's all solopreneurs. And I think COVID is a good testament of that. There were so many people that were like, I'm going to build my business and be a solopreneur. But at the end of the day, they don't have the motivation, the discipline, and again, that emotional and social intelligence to stick with it. They can start something, but staying power is a whole different situation. Most individuals really, really struggle with waking up every morning and motivating themselves to take action and get things done. That's why you have corporations that will always exist, and people will go and work for them, because that is their temperature. That's their thermostat. It's like, I go in and you tell me what to do, and then I'm just going to execute. It takes a different type of person to wake up on their own, be internally motivated on their own. they're not answering to anyone and they still have to like grind it out every single day just because.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not saying that everyone's going to become a solopreneur, but there's going to be two types of people, the business people and the consumers.
Yeah.
So the ones who are going to be business people, they're not going to need to hire as many people or as many VAs, like I said, because AI will be able to do a lot of those jobs, not just in the digital realm, but in the real realm, because anyone who's following Elon Musk, his robots, Optimus robots, they're doing already some amazing things right now. Like they can do a lot of human-related tasks, and his goal is to make them extremely affordable, like $10,000 to $20,000. So I think in a very near future, within the next 5 years, we'll probably have robots in our houses doing work for us.
I thought we have one in the room now.
Oh, shit.
My name is Chip. My name is Chip.